How is it going, guys? Mutemo here, back again with another video. So guys, in today's tutorial I won't show my face, but we'll be retouching this amazing image right here, guys. We're still on this series about this model, because the first video I did, we didn't use lighting, and you can see the second image I did use lighting. And this image, I'm going to retouch it in Lightroom and also in Photoshop. And as we did from the last video, I'm not going to use any action or color alerts. I'm going to do this as any upcoming photographer out there. So guys, no further ado, let's get into the video. So first thing, I'm going to color correct this image, but I like the image how it's looking, so I'm not going to do a lot. Because I feel some parts of the image are slightly darker, so I just reduce the contrast slightly up to that level, like that, because yeah, I feel now it's brighter, it looks nice. And let's go ahead and reduce the highlights slightly. Let's increase the shadows, and let's reduce the whites, and let's darken the image slightly. At that point, you can see there's some difference. There's some difference from our main image. You can see how the image is looking. Let's go ahead and increase the shadows more. Let's increase the brightness slightly. One thing, if you follow me on Instagram, I'm sure you've seen most of my images. I like my images slightly brighter because I have my own reasons here. And then I'll come here to the white balance, and let's push this on the to warm it up, and let's tint it slightly. Yeah, you can see before and after. I like how the color is looking on the corrected image, so I just come down here and let's reduce the I don't use the denoise feature. These are AI feature which has been added to Lightroom. I actually don't use it because it really takes so much time. So I'll just come down here and do manual noise reduction. So I'll just reduce the noise through the manual noise reduction. Let's see before and after. I like how the image is looking right now. I feel this is more contrasted. If you feel the contrast is not so much, remember we had reduced the contrast up here. You can always come back and bring it back, but remember, you can reduce the contrast and reduce the blacks. That still works perfectly. And I like how the image is looking, so I'll just, sorry guys. So I'll just go ahead and edit in Photoshop 2024. So guys, we are right here in Photoshop, and you can see our image is already looking amazing. The first thing we're going to do, we're going to remove the blemishes on this particular image and crop it to the Instagram size. The only way I want to crop this image, I want it to be more of a headshot, so I'll just remove the fabric, the outfit. So I'll crop it. Instagram size takes 4:5 or 8:10, so I'll just crop it well until I see the croppable size for me works, the size which works for me, and the way my image will look as beautiful as possible, and then say okay. Now I do like how the image is really looking. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to remove blemishes, and I believe everybody here knows how to remove blemishes. So I'll Control J once, and let's call this blemishes. So guys, I'll just fast forward this blemish removal part, and I'll see you back when I'm going to do frequency separation. So guys, welcome back. I'm actually done with removing all the blemishes, and you can see these few blemishes remaining here. I'll make sure I remove them after I'm done with frequency separation. So I'll just zoom out this, and let's retouch the air slightly before we go ahead and do frequency separation. So I'll pick my healing brush tool, and then just let's paint on some I just want to not do much on the hair because we just need the image to look as authentic as possible. Yeah, so I like how the image looks so far. The next thing, I'll go ahead and do the frequency separation. But before I do frequency separation, I like setting my workspace to a photography because it always gives me this navigator right here. Let me remove gives me this navigator right here, and if I want to zoom in my image, I want to click on a certain part of the image, I prefer zooming it with the navigator. So let me just zoom out. And if I didn't tell you, the settings for this image was I shot it ISO 200, 85mm f2.5 and shutter speed of 1/200. This is the EOS R with the RF 85mm f2, and it's a really nice combination. If you are able, you can purchase it. So let me come back to Photoshop and let's go ahead and do frequency separation on this image. So, and guys, before that, remember there's the method I used to do, the method that we always do to separate the image from the background. I prefer doing this later after frequency separation, but because I've realized some people skip to the best parts of the videos, so let me just do that. If you want to separate the image from the background, you want the image to pop more from the background, Ctrl J, and let's call this separation. I just don't want this video to be as long as possible, so yeah, separation. Sorry guys. I'll select subject, then Ctrl J to create a copy of the selection of the subject, then convert this to smart object, then go to filter, camera raw filter. Well, we just need to brighten the image more to be separated or to look separate from the background, and that's the best way to make your images pop in Photoshop. Let's increase the shadows slightly, darken the blacks, increase the vibrance slightly so that we can get a well-toned image. I like how the image is looking, and let's reduce the opacity slightly. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and Ctrl Shift Alt and T to create a merge layer, and then I'll select subject. Then Ctrl Shift and I to inverse the selection, then Ctrl J to select a selection or a copy of the background, convert it to smart object because you can always come back and tweak the settings again, and then go to filter, camera raw filter, and I'll just reduce the clarity, reduce the saturation of the background, and let's reduce the exposure slightly, and then say okay. And I like how the background looking. You can see now there's so much difference. Our image is popping more from the background. Let's reduce the opacity slightly, and I like how the image is looking right now, before, after, before and after. So I'll just Ctrl Shift Alt and T to create now a merge layer, then I Ctrl J once, Ctrl J once, and let's rename this texture, and let's rename texture, and let's rename this to color. Now that's perfect. So let's disable the texture layer, then select on the color layer, then go to filter, a blur, a Gaussian blur. And always guys, remember, if you pass your images through Lightroom, your images always converts to 16-bit images. So remember, and we have a different process for the 16-bit images, so we're using the add method instead of subtract. So reduce the radius to as low as possible, then identify a place in your model skin where you feel the textures high, and I feel the forward there are so many textures, so let's just reduce the textures, the forward, like that, to that level. Push it until you see the textures disappear, but you remain with the skin tone. So okay, and then select the texture layer, then come here to image, apply image, sorry guys, image, apply image, and then select color. Make sure blending mode is add, and make sure you invert, scale 2, offset 0, preserves transparency not selected, opacity 100, and mask not selected. Then say okay. Change the blending mode to linear light, perfect, and then create a black and white layer on top of your frequency separation layers, and then select texture and color and put all this in a group. Let's call this frequency separation. At that point I feel we okay, so I'll come here and select the color layer, and then I'll also disable the texture. I'll come here, pick my mixer brush, and I've been using the same setting in my mixer brush for over 3 years now. Wetness of 10, loads and 5, mix 90, and flow 100. I'll make sure this is 0, and sample layers is not selected. Make sure it's a clean brush, and let's go. If you want to rotate your images to retouch it perfectly, press R in your keyboard and just move it as smooth as you want it, so that you can get the perfect angle for your retouching. Don't over zoom your image. You can see mine is zoomed at 50. You don't zoom past 100, because actually don't zoom at all, just that I don't see well, that's why I zoom my images. But if you want to get perfect results, you don't zoom your images. I disabled the textures layer because I just want to retouch the colors and everything, to blend in everything to look amazing. Always disable the black and white as you continue, because you don't want to overdo your retouching. And the more plastic it looks, the more well retouched it will be, so pay attention. Go ahead and activate the textures as you continue with the frequency separation. I don't really take so much time with the brushing, because actually most of my images I prefer doing global dodge, micro dodge and burn, but because I'm using the retouch, for me AI, it's because we're trying to make the work easier. But for this one, as I said from the start of the video, no actions or LUTs used. So I decided to show you, because not everybody can afford the retouch. For me, that's why I prefer doing these videos, to just help someone out there to retouch better and faster. And guys, I'm so grateful for the support. We are at 2.5k subscribers, and we're doing good. I've tried to upload the whole of the week. I'll try to upload a new video every single day, so that I can help someone out there to understand photography. You can see how I'm brushing. I'm not over brushing, because the important thing is to remain with a nice texture and a beautiful looking image, not a over edited image, because I see this all the time. People over edit their images, so yeah. And if you haven't followed me on Instagram, go ahead and follow me. My name is Mutemwa, or just search photographer in Nairobi and you'll see my page on Instagram. So I think we are done with the brushing. So what I'll do, I'll just enable the texture layer, and then I can see how much we have done. I'll just zoom out slightly and now disable the black and white, and I can see how much we have done so far. I like how the image is looking before and after. So I'll just go ahead and blend in now perfectly, so that we can get a nice looking image. So I like how the image is looking. I think that's all. Nothing much we're going to do on this image. I'll just Control Alt Shift and T to create a merge layer. Let's delete the black and white on top right here, and then Control Shift Alt and T to create a merge layer. And then I'll just go to color grading, go to selective color and select remember, skin tones are always made of red and yellow, and our image is looking a little bit warmer. So what we're going to do is let's reduce the warmth by working on the yellows on the reds. So select the reds and select on the cyans, push the cyans to this side and push the yellows to this side slightly, because the yellows are the warmth, and that's what we're reducing. Don't worry, my image looks blurry. I know, I'll just zoom it in and it will look amazing. Select the yellows and reduce the cyans slightly, and let's push the yellows to this side. That looks nice. And then I'll just go ahead and select photo filter, and then select the photo filter 82, and let's reduce this to as low as possible, the density to as low as possible. I like how the image is looking right now. So if I can show you before and after. Before color grading, after color grading, before, after. So I'll just go ahead and reduce the opacity of the photo filter because we don't want it to look so fake. And that's nice. So after all this, I'll just come here and select selective color, and let's select blacks, and let's see what we can do the blacks, because we just want the image to look as nice as possible. Let's reduce the opacity of that selective color right there, and I'll just go ahead and select gradient map, and then go ahead and select my photographic toning. And you can see we have this image looking like this. It doesn't look so nice. So what you need to do, go to filter and go to blending mode and select soft light, and now reduce the opacity to until a place where you are happy with your outcome or with the results you have. And that's all. That's how I could edit this image. And then for my preference, I didn't do dodge and burn yet, but for my preference, I can leave the image looking like that. But if you want to exaggerate your images and do dodge and burn, let's go ahead, and I'll go ahead and run my remember there is no actions. So come here and select curves, and then push curves up like this, and let's call this Control I to invert. Let's call this dodge, and let's go ahead and select curves and push this down right here. It's actually working. My computer doesn't respond so fast, but it works for me. So really taking so much time, and push this back like this, and then Control I to invert, and let's call this burn. And then I'll create a black and white on top here like this, and then select the dodge layer, and then reduce the flow of your brush to at 1, and then just enhance the highlights places where you want the highlights enhanced, because that's what we're focusing on when we're doing dodge and burn, enhancing the highlights. So I do like how the image is looking right now. If I can just let's delete the black and white and show you the before and after. We just did slight dodge and burn because we just needed to get a very nice toned image. And guys, I don't really like the model's hair, how the hair is looking. I think it's okay, but you remember we were using a very low apertures, that's why you can see the hair is slightly blurry, but I feel it's still looking very nice. So what we're going to do, let's just Control Shift Alt and T to create a merge layer, and let's just, guys, as I said, for all my videos the only action I use is eye and teeth whitening, and as promised there are no actions, but remember it's just eye and teeth whitening. So I'll just go ahead and whiten the eyes and teeth right here like that. I didn't say using actions now. If you can be able to buy actions or make actions for yourself, that's perfect. But for my videos, I prefer making them for upcoming photographers because they don't have access to all these things. They don't have the knowledge to do actions. They don't have the knowledge to buy the best lighting. And for this image, I just use one light setup. For my previous image, I didn't actually use any light because when shooting outdoor, I prefer using lighting and not using lighting. So I'll just go ahead and crop the image to maybe that level because I just wanted to crop it as inside as possible. And let's see. Yeah, I like how it's looking right now. I like how it's looking right now. So for me, this is okay. Yeah, I like the outcome. It's really looking very nice. So thank you guys for watching this video. If you learned something from today's tutorial, make sure you subscribe to this channel and share it to as many people as possible. Like the video more so that can be recommended to as many people as possible. You don't have to buy so many lighting, so much gear to get perfect images, beautiful images. You just need to invest in your skill. And see you in the next video. Let me just show you before and after before we go. Let's reduce the opacity of the eye and teeth whitening slightly. Let me show you the before and after. Let's put everything right here in a group. And this the before. This is how my image looked before it came to Photoshop. And this is how after we have done everything. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you learned a thing or two. And see you in the next one.